So I just told everyone you are on my Mount Rushmore of dream guests on the pod. I'm so excited to have you here.
How did you guys know I was watching The Bachelor? Did I put it on Instagram?
I think Justine saw it on your Instagram stories.
Oh
So
my
she's on her
gosh, that's
honeymoon
so
and was
funny.
like, I think Shan watches. You should reach out. I was like, you know what? Let me slide in them DMs and see.
That's so funny. I love your guys' show. I think it's so, the two of you together is such magic. I used to
Oh,
actually
thank you.
have like a best friend
Mhm.
blog. This is like back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
And so it was like one of the greatest joys of my life. So when I see people do it and do it well, it's just
Yeah.
everything. It is everything.
No, I appreciate that. So, what are you doing watching The Bachelor?
I like The Bachelor. When did
Yeah?
I first started watching it?
Yeah, when
After
did
I
you
had my
start?
first baby. I think Matt James was my first
Okay.
season.
That was your foray
I think
into
that
it.
was my intro into it. And I was
Yeah.
like,
That's a
I
rough
think
season to start with.
it was, but it was juicy. But I don't really
Yeah.
watch it traditionally. I watch it on fast
Okay.
forward. Maybe that's everyone,
Yeah.
how everyone watches it.
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay, yes,
Yep.
get the gist, yes.
Yeah.
So I watched Matt James season, and then I watched Michelle's season.
Okay, you went back. Yeah.
Loved
Love
Michelle's
Michelle.
season.
We love Michelle.
That
Yes.
I don't know what was the guy who won.
Nate.
Quintessential fuckboy
I
in
know.
the best way.
I
You know what
know.
I mean? It was
Poor Michelle
like, I
got
don't know.
got.
It was such a joy to watch that season. There was a
Mm-hmm.
specific spot where the other guy who was like gunning for the rose or the
Mm-hmm.
top position,
Yeah.
he pulled Michelle aside before the rose ceremony and was like bawling to her, like, pick me,
Mm.
pick me, pick me.
Yeah.
And then they do the rose ceremony and she picks Nate first. And he had this little like,
Well,
this just
mm-hmm.
like,
I had it in the
no,
bag.
I knew, you knew. And I
Mm-hmm.
watched that like 70 times. So from that point
Oh,
on, I was like, this is
you're
my
in it.
show.
You're
And
in
so
it.
then I saw the billboards for this guy and I was like,
Okay.
this, I have to watch this season. It
Yeah.
has it gave, but it's
Yeah.
been fascinating in its own special way.
Mm-hmm. Have you only watched the black leads or have you
It's
watched
how it's
anybody else?
sounding. I haven't
Yeah.
seen Rachel's though. And Rachel's a friend of mine. So but I
Okay.
think I have to
Yeah,
go
it's a good one.
back to watch Rachel, but I didn't like get hip to it until
Mm-hmm.
then. How long have
Okay.
you been watching The Bachelor for?
So Justine and I have two very different relationships. I've been watching, I remember seeing season one. So I've kind of always watched The Bachelor. Always
Wow.
like a little guilty pleasure. I used to watch with my mom back in like middle school type of thing. So I've always been kind of locked in. And then Justine and I started watching together during Rachel Lindsay's season. I was like, bitch, we got to watch this. And
Mm.
that's when she really started to get into it. And then we started our podcast. But I've been in this game for far too long.
Yeah. Okay,
Far
as
too
somebody
long.
who's watched for a long time, some of
Mm-hmm.
the things that I'm noticing from this season is
Mm-hmm.
it's obviously how produced it is.
Yeah.
And it's making me question, is this what they think people want to see when they're watching other people fall in love or form connections?
Mm-hmm.
And has it been the same since season one? Like you don't get to
Mm.
see the fun side, the lighthearted
I
side.
know.
It's a lot of the vulnerability. It's a lot
Yeah.
of the crying. It's a
The
lot
crying, the sob
of the
stories.
of the sob stories of
Yeah.
really just digging into trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, oh, maybe this is what they just have come to
Yeah.
realize people like to watch. Because I'm like, I get this far into it, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't get why you like these ladies. And I know
Mm.
that there's reasons, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't get to see their redeeming qualities, their fun
Yeah.
side, the things that actually make
Mm-hmm.
people pair, bond, and fall in love with somebody. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, a part of that is learning the intimate, deep, hard truths about somebody, but it's
Right.
definitely not like the heart of what it is.
Yeah.
Because I don't really
Yeah.
get what's with Latia. I'm like, I'm not sure what I haven't learned anything,
New.
for you to be
Yeah.
this sure about this lady this early on.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
obviously missed a lot, but the producers have made a decision on what they
Mm-hmm.
think that we want to know. But has it
Yeah.
always been that way?
It has. They've always leaned into the sad sob story, open up. You got to get real open, real vulnerable, real quick from your first one-on-one. That's kind of been a through line through all of the seasons. And I agree. Like I think this season in particular, which has been a little rough, is like, for instance, with Zoe didn't get a one-on-one. Therefore, we haven't really gotten to know much about Zoe, And so you don't really get to see much of their personality so much because the most you hear about them is just whatever their sob story is, but sometimes it's not even that related to them. It's like their family, dynamic. But yeah, that's kind of been the way of the Bachelor, is just you got to get vulnerable, you got to get in deep, that's what they kind of lean into. So we'll
I
see.
do think in the beginning episodes, which I actually enjoy the beginning episodes almost the most, there is a lot to learn because in my line of work, so I just put out a class on masterclass on the art of sex appeal. And the majority of who it was targeted towards was people in long-term relationships trying to recapture the spark.
Yeah.
And a lot of people look at that sentence as like an eye roll or something very overwhelming. Like, well, I don't want to have to put in the work to get the magic. I just want the magic to be there as it once was. I think it's really refreshing to watch The Bachelor and you see these girls dressed for prom, hair and makeup did, lights, camera, action, and they're still like, I'm gonna come with a glitter basketball to try to make this spark. I'm going to come and bring a bunch of marshmallows. We're going to play this chubby bunny game because I'm going to force the spark. So I think that's inspiring for all of us to remember that at every stage of intimacy, we have to be really deliberate and manual if we want to make a connection. And we have to curate the kinds of experiences that allow that person to see the best sides of ourselves. So I know that the work is being done. I'm just saying that as the season goes on, we start to see less and less of that and more of them crying. But I love it in the beginning when the girls are like fun and catty and light and creative and romantic. Like, I think that's what gets me with The Bachelor.
For sure. So this episode, we're going to talk fantasy suites. How do you think The Bachelor does as far as showcasing sex and intimacy in a healthy way?
I wish they just told us. Who thought? Like, why can't you just let us know?
Let us know.
It's just, right? It's just like, because I don't know. It really seemed, I loved Latia's outfit this week because
she always looks
it
amazing.
Was given more men, unless you're going to do it.
Right, with the shoulder out.
I'm just kidding. True. Like, it was just like, I'm not, unless you're going to do it. So it was like, I'm not sleeping over. And he was like, I love you. And she's like, for Grant to say that, I think that we can what? What did that mean?
What exactly?
You guys just cuddle all night? Like, there was a shift that happened there. And how did that alter the line that you had drawn just before that? So I wish, if you're going to do it, then do it, right? If you're going to say that this is a part, if you're sharing the journey of love, right, and you're sharing what you guys do and you don't do, just give us a little something to understand, like, well, what does this night mean? And then also we can have an understanding of like, oh, they had this kind of night and this person had that kind of night and then this person went home. So it would have been like, oh, it would give us more information.
Give the context, yeah.
Because otherwise...
it's a guessing game.
Right. You know, because... I don't know. Zoe is just the hottest thing ever. So I don't know. She's so incredibly stunning and the body is just crazy, phenomenal. Yeah. So I kind of feel like he was like, I've got to get to the fantasy suite
with this one.
It's not going to make any sense to anybody else.
Sure didn't. Sure did not. Who is Zoe? What are we doing here? But sure.
But everybody who saw her in that yoga outfit is going to be like, Okay, I understood why we got this far, but I don't know what happened in the fantasy suites. But nonetheless, I think the idea of trying to mimic sort of a longer game in terms of we don't get to the space of intimacy until this point in the relationship. And there is something, I love the consent element of not assuming that we're going to be doing this. Like, the bachelor, bachelorette has to ask and invite. Both of them has to say that they want to do this. Right. And then there's ample time for conversation above. Like, what does this mean for us? What's on the other side? So I think there's definitely parts of it that are positive and modelable, but a lot of it, because there's not enough information, is just like...
You're like hungry for more, and they can only give us but so much.
Not that The Bachelor is about education, right?
Right. That's not the role, I guess.
Right. Not that it's supposed to inform us of anything, but if it was attempting to, then that information would be nice.
Exactly. All right, so let's dive in. So we're in Dominican Republic for the fantasy suites. Grant, we learned, is part Dominican and also used to live there because he was playing basketball. So first up, we have Juliana. Do you have a thought process on like the order? Like, what is the best order to be first, second, or third for fantasy suites if you were one of the ladies?
It would depend if I'm trying to have sex or not.
Okay, let's say you're trying to get down.
Then number one.
You want to be first.
I
Okay.
want to be first for sexual health reasons.
Yes.
Of course, everybody is screened in advance, but I just think even for my own, I'm setting the tone. I'm setting the pace.
Yeah.
The best sex for me is free and it's authentic. And that can be difficult when you feel like just the day before they're with somebody
else was here. Yeah.
So it's just an opportunity for me to have the best. I think in dating in general, the goal is not to be the best, not to meet the best person, not to be the best version of yourself, but it's to be the version of yourself you like the most. The version of yourself that you see around your best friends, like how you guys are on this podcast is how I hope you are on your honeymoon. So I think that that becomes increasingly difficult when you have obstacles that keep you in your head. And of course, the entire Bachelor experience is designed to make people on the brink of nutty.
Yes.
Just like
stay on the edge.
Just on the edge of nutty, right? You're putting me in such very difficult, psychologically trying conditions, and you're just playing on all of my basic human instincts. So I would want to be playing the psychological game against myself. And it's just knowing yourself. So someone else might be like, if I go first, and I don't mind. I would rather go first, be relaxed and cool, and then suffer for 2 days, then suffer for 2 days, and then try to come in hot and cool. Try to like, I'm going to just pretend I wasn't,
like two other women were here. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I think, Juliana having that like fun day and then 2 spiraling days, at least you spiraled silently.
True. That's true. Yeah. I like that way you put it.
What about you? What would you pick?
I think I always flip-flop depending on the Bachelor maybe, but I think going first is the best. As you said, for just mental health wise and being the most clear-headed, knowing I don't have to think about these 2 other girls, but rather these 2 other girls are coming after me. So yeah, I think it's the best leg up for sure.
I think if you're not going to have sex though, third is great.
Yeah.
Because they've already satisfied at that point.
Right.
It's not,
he's not going to be starved by the time he got to you.
He's not going to have blue balls. Right. He's going to be like, oh, I've actually already had my fill. Right. This is something different. And I don't mind a night of cuddling and something else. And it does distinguish or separate you if the others did. For whatever Puritan, ways that we've all been conditioned to believe what type of person abstains from sex when all the opportunities are available for them. So I think that if Latia did not have sex with him and then she went third, it's the perfect play.
That's the best place. Yeah.
Yeah. So but I'd be trying to have sex. For sure.
For sure.
What? I'm not coming all this way, doing all of that.
And not when Grant looks like this.
And get picked and not have a time, right? I'm doing it for the plot.
For the plot, right? Let me get the story at least. Damn.
Yeah.
So Juliana, she's faced a lot of infidelity in her past. They fly in Daisy. Did you watch Joey's season last season or no?
I did not know.
Okay. So they fly in Daisy. She's from last season. She's whatever. They fly her in to kind of help Juliana, because she faced infidelity in her past. Her ex had a bunch of chicks on the side. So going into Fantasy Suite, she's obviously a bit triggered knowing that there's 2 other women. And obviously she's afraid to keep opening up because heartbreak is on the precipice. Question I had for you, is there any way a girl with a history or a trauma of being cheated on or infidelity, is there any way that person can prepare for being on a show like this? Because Juliana's not the only one. There's a lot of girls that have come in with a past of being cheated on, and they know that all of it, and they know they're about to be one of 25 on The Bachelor. How do you prepare for something like this and not be triggered at every single turn?
I think that you have to look at being cheated on as, in life, you can look at it like win or lose or win or learn. And so if you look at it like win or learn, you maybe didn't win, and maybe you had your heart broken, but you learned something really valuable. You were able to pick up on different cues. And what often happens, what The Bachelor does, or reality shows, period, it's so difficult to prepare for these things because you have never been in that situation naturally before. Right. So whenever someone describes a romantic partner as crazy, it's because they were usually placed in a set of circumstances that they've never been in before. So they have no template for how to emotionally respond. So if anything, being cheated on before is an advantage because now you have a template for understanding your emotional process, and also a template for being able to look at that person to see discerningly, like if they are comfortable in this kind of environment, putting people through this pain, if they feel like no remorse for going from one person to the next and how that's impacting the different women, or the difference between somebody who is trying their best in this process, but obviously is also having a trying time as well. So I think I would see it as an advantage. Because if you've never experienced that before and your very first time is doing it on national TV, not just competing with the phantom girl that you can't see, but the ones who actually are staying in the bed beside you.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's incredibly difficult. So, and you have no schema to draw upon in order to like figure out how to behave or regulate your emotions in that moment. So, I mean, at the end of the day, again, like I know that these shows purposefully try to poke the fires, and even just how things are chopped together.
Yeah.
They may not necessarily even have been top of mind for her, the way that they pushed it forward.
Right.
But I would hope that she'd be more prepared versus less.
Than less. Yeah.
I also love certain tactics. I mean, again, to me, the goal of dating is to be the coolest version of yourself, the version of yourself that you would co-sign, the version of yourself that you would date. That girl with the short hair, what was her name? She black girl, short hair, stunning. She
Bailey?
won the money one.
Bailey,
maybe.
Yes.
Yeah. That was actually just, something that she was saying too. Like, I am like regretful that this person is seeing this version of myself, right? Like this is not the best representation of who I am.
Right.
But again, you're in a set of circumstances you've never been in before.
Right.
The show is purposefully pushing on psychological buttons to get you to this breaking point. And when you do, you get more airtime. So nonetheless, it's very difficult to not be anything but that version of yourself. But you want to try to keep it cool and together. So you have to really think ahead. What conditions are going to allow me to be this best version of myself? And what conditions do I know I can't handle? So I love the advice that the other Bachelor gave Latia, where she was like, just go in and be like, don't tell me about these other
draw the lines.
What's that going to do for me? Right? Like in this exact moment, my curiosity cannot get the best of me. Because that will bring out the worst in myself. So similarly, like, if you know that you have certain triggers, you've been through it before, you can actually start to assess where you can and can't handle things, and then start to create a reality that's going to, again, allow you to enter into that space as a relaxed version of yourself.
Yeah, I think that's definitely what Juliana, I think, had to kind of channel somehow going into this date, because you could see she's almost on the brink of tears the whole time, just thinking about her past, her infidelity, and now going into a moment of being intimate with somebody who's probably going to be intimate with two other people. Like, so you see her struggle. But anyways, time for Juliana and Grant's date. She looked really cute. I love Juliana. She always has on a little bodysuit with the boobs pushed up. I feel like she knows what time it is in this fantasy suites, which I appreciate from this one. But yeah, they go driving on four-wheelers through the jungle, have a lot of fun. He shares a little bit about his history with Dominican Republic. And then, when they head into dinner, Grant said he can feel that Juliana's holding back. She's holding something back. At the dinner, she shares more context as to her ex. So her ex, it seems like they were together 6 or 7 years, and she was in this cycle with this horrible dude for 6 to 7 years. She said he broke her, and she finally had to walk away, but she today still considers herself broken and is working through that. Her and Grant obviously got very emotional. I always kind of like shudder when someone describes themselves as broken. Like, you know what they're trying to say, but what is she actually trying to say? Because to say that, to consider yourself a broken person, feels so harsh, and not giving yourself enough grace, or even seeing yourself as, like, a lot of women have gone through what you've gone through. What makes you broken versus the next woman? Did that strike you in any moment, the Juliana calling herself broken?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's unhealed, right? And if I get a scrape on my knee from bike riding and the wound is still open, I'm not a broken person. I just got a cut on my leg that hasn't healed yet. So I think, I mean, to your point with the verbiage, you can say that the wound still feels fresh, and we all know what that feels like, right?
Right.
When you've got a tender spot on your skin and you touch it and it still stings, and you know that you can't press on it or else you're going to re-injure yourself. I think emotionally the same things can happen where we haven't fully been able to process something and get past it. We haven't developed a system for how to protect ourselves in the future. And then also how to ensure that the wound doesn't get rehealed because it is still tender and sore. So I can empathize with that. I mean, we've all, I think, been in that place too, where post infidelity or, post some kind of emotional trauma, you know that you can't think about it without getting that lump in your throat.
Yeah.
You know that you can't reflect on that without feeling rage, and without the ability to regulate those emotions in a timely manner. So I can attest to that. I think it's also inspiring too. Like, I think in our today's day and age, there can be an over-indexing on self-help and self-healing and the necessity of being a whole, healed, perfect person.
Right.
Because, you can meet somebody with a whole nightstand of self-help books and, you got to date somebody else though, right? Like, you can be the best version of yourself, but you still have to be with somebody else. And that's a whole different set of skills.
Yes.
And so you don't have to mutually exclusively work on these skills. Like, there are some people, coughs, straight men, in many cases, that don't work on themselves at all. And then they just work on dating. And then they find that they're projecting all of these unhealed parts of themselves onto other people. And there's the flip side, which I don't think is much better, where people put themselves in a room, they lock themselves up, and then they completely focus only on self-development and self-healing, and then get together with somebody else and then wonder why that's not gelling either. They're both two different sets of skills. So I appreciate the fact that unhealed people do still try to find love and do still put themselves out there and are honest about that and forthcoming and saying, like, I'm entering into this. I know that I'm worthy and deserving of love, and I want to find that, and I want to find it with you. Also, while I'm doing this, I'm still trying to find myself, and I'm still trying to heal myself. Like, you can do both things at the same time.
At the same time. Okay. Well, yeah, shout out to Juliana then, because she, maybe broken is a harsh word to use for herself, but she's being honest. I'm unhealed. I got stuff to work on, but I'm still here. I want love. And that's why I'm
because some people can be like, well, why are you here then? Well, why did you come to The Bachelor? Well, because she made it to the top 3.
Yeah.
So clearly it wasn't the worst time. I mean, and I think, we all grow and learn in different settings and different circumstances. And if you have that win-learn mentality, even if she doesn't get picked, which, side note, she's not getting picked. Even if she does not get picked, I think it's still an opportunity to have gotten closer to a healed version of self and to have actually had this been a catalyst because of some of the experiences that she had.
Exactly. Yeah. So Grant reminds her, quote, "I am falling in love with you." So as of now, she's like neck and neck with Latia. They both have gotten the "I'm falling in love."
No, Latia got "I love you"
in this episode, but I'm saying going into Fantasy Suites, they both got the "I'm falling in love with you." Okay. He says "I love you" in this episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which puts her ahead, right?
Which then puts her ahead. Yeah, she's neck and neck, but then Latia gets "I love you" and comes ahead. Anyways, Juliana and Grant, they head into the Fantasy Suites. He's saying he can see her being his wife. They pop bottles, they get to kissing. I have another question for you as a sex and intimacy expert in this whole Fantasy Suites thing. What would make a successful Fantasy Suites look like sex-wise? Because these people are strangers, they're nervous, they're in their heads, the wall's up, but I mean, there's also other people still in the process. But despite all of this, what can Grant or Juliana, what's the most that they can hope for in stepping away from like a successful Fantasy Suite night?
I think slow.
Okay.
Slow, period. My best sex tip for almost anybody is to slow things down.
Okay.
Even with your movements, everything is hotter, is better, slower. And if we have a full night, I mean, most people can't do slow because they have work the next day or because their kids might wake up in an hour. Right. Or, they were exhausted from a long day. You guys were not. You're just literally dating for a living. Yeah. You can afford a 7-hour session, right? Like, you could really like slow. I would just be like, let's do a bath. Let's do a massage. Let's slow dance together. It would probably take me 3 hours
before you even get
see
to
any
sex.
genitals. We're not
Right?
even
Wow.
before sex, before we even look at the genitals.
Oh shit.
We're just
Okay. Talking
teasing.
real slow.
We're getting hard. We're getting soft. We're getting
Yeah.
wet. We're getting dry.
Okay.
Figuratively and literally, like
Yeah.
we're really doing this slow. I am teasing, and we're going to have such a buildup that when this thing happens, it's going to feel like such a euphoric release. And I'm going to try to time it out so the release comes pretty soon after I have to leave. Or we have to like wrap things up so that we're in the afterglow when we say our goodbyes.
Oh, that's smart. Yeah. That's the if anybody's listening trying to go on the Bachelor, she just gave you the whole rundown, the game plan for how to do your fantasy suites. That makes so much sense. Build it all the way up to the end and then have him walking away during the afterglow still thinking about you.
Yeah,
still
you're just popping that little, grape in his mouth, giving him a kiss goodbye, saying goodbye. He's still half chubbed. You still have your heart rate up.
Yes.
And he's like, wow, I can't stop thinking about you. I don't know why.
Yes. Oh, I love that. So yeah, Juliana and Grant, they look very happy the next morning. So I'm only going to assume that they had sex. I feel like she was laying it on thick too. Her outfits, she looked amazing. She always had the boob pushed up. So I'm happy for her.
Do you know statistically, as somebody who's watched The Bachelor, like what percentage of people actually have sex in a fantasy suite?
I don't know if we even know that information because they don't always share if they've had sex.
Well, what's your best guess?
My best guess, I would say at least 80% of people are on The Bachelor. Yeah, on The Bachelor specifically, because I think The Bachelorette, some of the leads might have more of a hard line. I feel like Rachel Lindsay shared that she didn't have sex on her fantasy suites, I want to say.
I think she did.
She did? With all of them?
Well, I don't know about all of them, but I feel like with Brian, because I had her on my podcast.
Okay. Yeah.
And on my podcast, which was prior to her divorce, she talked about how the fantasy suite actually set them up for a very difficult sex life. Because in essence, what happens is you have this one euphoric, magical time that had all this buildup. You have all the time to take your time. You're dating for a living. And then after that, during the time period between when they choose each other and when they can actually publicly talk about their relationship, The Bachelor flies you to like private, Airbnbs to see each other. And then you're almost replicating the same format of the show.
Night. Yeah.
Because it's just the two of you. You can't go anywhere else. You can't talk to anybody else. And so you're in your own world again. And so again, the focal point on like sex and the time that you take to be a good lover is just so elongated. Then you come out of that. Now you're back into real life. And all of a sudden you have to juggle all the various things and you're expecting the same type of sex. And it often doesn't happen that way. And because you don't have the culture in your relationship of talking about sex, because you never had to before, it just naturally was there. Yeah. Now it becomes very hard to tell your partner you're not satisfied.
Oh, okay. Yeah. If not Rachel, somebody else. I know some of the bachelorettes have more of a hard line that I think the bachelors don't necessarily. So I think on the Bachelor is probably way more sex happening. So that's why I guess like 80%. Yeah. But then every now and then there's always a Latia. We saw it before with Madison Pruitt. She was on a previous season. Who are more religious inclined, and so they will put a halt from Jump Street that it's not happening.
Do you think Latia did not have sex with him?
I don't think she did.
Okay, but there's a very big difference between not eating the donut, but still licking the donut.
Licking the frosting or doing...
Licking the frosting of the donut, snuggling up against the donut. Like, maybe you didn't get penetrated. It doesn't mean that person still didn't. The first time that I was with my husband, we did not have penetrative sex, but he definitely jacked off on me. So what's
where's the line? What are we?
Where's
considering?
the line here? Yeah. Right? Am I giving myself the like? Oh, I didn't have sex on the first night. Like, still ended up with some mystery fluid on your stomach by the end of the day. So I don't know. I think if I were to really draw that line and I wanted to make it very clear, then I would not have slept over. I would have said like, hey, we can hang out for a couple more hours, but I'm not why am I spending the night? What am I doing that for?
Yeah.
Right? We can stay up here till sunrise.
Yeah. It seems torturous too, to sleep in the same bed.
I don't think the producers told you the date ends now. You're either going to the room or you're going your
mm-hmm.
separate ways.
Right.
So I think that she should have been a bit more clear, been like, I still want to spend more time with you, but I'm not going to share a room with you. Let's just keep chilling here for a few more hours. Then there would have been no questions. Because otherwise it leads me to believe that the shoulder out got the best of you.
The shoulder out.
The shoulder out.
That was her flag waving, saying, "Look, I'm down. You're down."
There was the angel and there was the devil, and that leads me to believe.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Okay, so that's Julia. Anything else? No, that's pretty much Juliana. What are your thoughts on Juliana? Are you a fan of hers, or you seem to love Latia? We like Latia as well. I don't know about the Mormon stuff.
I don't know if I like Latia. I think Latia is going to win. I don't know if I liked. Who did I like? I liked the girl who didn't have a lot of eyebrows. The one who came with the llama.
Oh, I liked her. Alex.
Yeah.
Alex from Canada. Yeah.
I feel like she gave personality. She was fun. She was contrasting because she kind of had this like quirky, nerdy girl vibe. But she talked about butt plugs, a woman after my heart. So like that would have been my pick.
Yeah.
Like
I was shocked.
When I feel like I can like sink my teeth into your personality.
Right.
I don't feel like any of these women.
This is tough, these three. Yeah.
But he's not giving. So to me, I'm just like, I know one of your guys' episodes was called like, do the extroverts always win? And I feel like this season has been like really indicative of like,
no, definitely not.
You could be very boring.
Yeah.
And still very chosen. Not that introverts are boring.
No.
In fact, it's quite the opposite. Often that introverts are, very introspective. They are great listeners. They know how to be with other people because they know how to be with themselves.
Right.
And so that skill definitely translates to an intimate setting. However, these are boring introverts. So I don't know. I mean, like, I guess Juliana's giving cutesy.
Cutesy. That's a great way to put it. She's very cutesy.
She's giving cutesy and like, I'm always just getting that impression of her. Like
the little eyes. Yeah. She always has on like a push-up bra of some sort.
A push-up bra and then like eyes. It's like, and it's just like silly. Like, one of those girls who's like, I'm just like so goofy.
Ugh. I hate it. Self-described
really
as goofy.
I'm like super goofy.
No.
Like she's giving like that. I'm like, around my friends, I'm like so goofy. I'm just a really goofy personality.
It's the same person that says they're the life of the party. I'm just the life of the party.
Like once you get to know me, I'm like really like, people don't know this about me. Me and my sister always talk about that person because they will sometimes be like, anybody who self-describes as funny and then uses goofy as an adjective to describe the kind of funny they are, I'm like, no one else finds you funny. They think you're hot. They think you're hot. They do not think you're funny.
No.
Just silly. So I don't do, it's just like,
so you don't feel any type of way about Juliana.
Any of them.
No strong feelings.
They're all the same brand of white bread, just with different packages. But on the inside, everybody is giving Wonder Bread.
So let's talk about the next slice, Zoe.
But let me just say this as a caveat. Okay. So don't mean this in a shady way. I'm on a podcast talking about The Bachelor, and this is what we do, okay?
Yes.
I was excited to come on here so we could talk shit.
Yes.
It's nothing to do with these actual humans.
No, we don't know these people.
I acknowledge that the editing that is being done, I acknowledge the way this is cut together, and I also acknowledge the psychological warfare that is occurring that makes it difficult for them to be their most vibrant self. If anything, we probably could talk, if I could remember their personalities from episode 1, that's probably a better indicator of how they really are than how they are at this point of the process.
That's fair. Yeah. Zoe, what do you think Zoe's doing here? She ain't get a one-on-one. You brought her to Fantasy Suites. I don't know Zoe. Zoe don't know Grant. What's the... You think he was just enamored by her beauty and he's like, I just gotta...
For sure.
That's really it? Because what the hell is Zoe doing here?
Zoe is once in a lifetime hot.
So he's like, I just got to try this.
And I think it's natural body. I think it's natural. Not that that's a thing, but
no, but I think it is. The thighs match the booty.
Everything matches.
Everything was matching.
Yeah. The hair was so inspired. I was very inspired by her hair. I was like,
really?
What am I doing? I need to...
Do a little
That's Zoe.
half up,
Yeah,
half
the other one,
down moment.
Juliana was like this, and
Yeah.
Zoe is this.
Zoe, yeah, she does have this kind of regal, yes, elegance.
Grant. It's like,
Yes.
yeah. I would have been voting for Zoe till the end, just because
Wow.
I just want to see how the kids look.
What do
At
these
a
jeans
certain
do?
point, you got to do it for the genes. And I think that she would be a fine mother. I think that she would be, and he's boring. So it didn't bother me that she had gotten that
She
far.
made it all the way through. Okay.
Grant is very boring, guys.
It's tough. They never.
Who's more boring, Grant or Matt James?
Ooh. I think they did Matt a huge disservice because they just didn't really give him much positive camera time ever. It was always dragging him through the mud with his dad or some bullshit. So you never even really got to see a personality from him at all. I think with Grant, we see a little bit more. I think. But also, I think The Bachelor, it's never really about the lead. It's always about the contestants more than anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you're not going to get much from the lead ever. It's not really their show. It's their show, but it's not really their show. You know?
That is really true. That's a really good insight. Has it always been that way?
Yeah. Yeah. It's really the time for the contestants to shine so they can put in their bid to become the next lead or to make it to paradise. And so the show is about crafting their story even more so than crafting the love story of the lead. That's how I've always seen it. Particularly the last few seasons, there were a few seasons in there that production seemed to hate the lead. Like Colton was a huge, I don't know if you remember Colton, white boy, he eventually came out as gay. He jumped the fence and ran away from the cameras. That was like his big moment. They almost sabotaged him in the end. They flew in his final girl's dad to talk her out of it. Like there were a few seasons where production really didn't seem to even like their lead. So I'm never really surprised if the lead doesn't get a good edit because I'm like, they don't even see it as being your show. So it's about really letting the personalities of the contestants fly more than anything.
Well, based on your expertise, do you think that they liked Grant?
I think they did. I think they liked Grant. Yeah. We've just seen them drag people in a way that I didn't see them do with Grant.
He almost got too positive of an edit to the point that there was, you didn't, like, even Zoe said that. She's like, I don't know anything about you.
I don't know a thing about you, sir.
And I was like, me neither.
Same.
I don't. Yeah, same. I think I saw that you guys talked about this or somebody else, but that the belief that being emotionally intelligent just means being a sounding board.
Yeah.
Not actually providing any type of opinion or personality or challenging anybody, but instead just listening. So he just listened this season.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was very, very, very dull to watch. That's why I was like, I'm not surprised that Zoe made it this far. She's hot and silent and boring, and he's hot and silent and boring. And he wasn't looking for the contrast, right? Like none of the women that he chose were like fiery. I'm not into astrology, but I would imagine that all of these women are air signs.
Their energy, you're right, is all pretty the same. There's not one out of the three that kind of stands out energy-wise.
That was like spicy or when that was a little nutty. We didn't have a little dash of Carolina, you know what I mean? Like where he's like, oh, he might be attracted to toxic. This man is not attracted to toxic at all.
No, not at all. He made it very clear.
He's attracted to calm waters, and that's what he got.
Yes, absolutely. So Zoe going in, as you said, she admits that they haven't really talked about anything. She didn't get a one-on-one, so she's had the least amount of time. They fly in Rachel from last season, who was also part of a top 3. She got the least amount of time, just to give her a little bit of advice. I think with Zoe, what I was hoping to see from her, because she's had the least amount of time, in my opinion, she almost has the most agency to remember that she's still picking him, you know? But I don't think she was looking at it in that way. But that's one thing that always kind of bothers me about the show, that the women kind of, they're down with whoever this man is. You know, they want to get chosen. and kind of forget the piece that they're also choosing him. The most we saw this was actually on Colton's season. I think he had about 5 girls leave the show on their own. They were just dropping like flies, but they all just had this agency in them. They're like, you know what? I'm also here to choose you, and you're not my person, so I'm going to leave. And I thought Zoe could have still, not that I'm asking her to leave, but you know, she still had that in her because she had the least amount of time.
Yeah.
But you know, she still wants to get chosen. So whatever.
Yeah, she still wanted to get chosen. But yeah, she definitely, I mean, and she did voice, I don't know him. And she voiced that to him.
Yeah,
like, hey, I
she
feel
did.
like I
She
actually
really did.
don't know you.
Yeah.
She had a real opportunity. It was like not a strong opportunity to turn
Yeah.
things in her favor,
Yeah.
but she did have an opportunity to turn things in her favor. And I think she did the best that she could do.
She could. Also,
She's
production set her up with this silent yoga class. Like,
That was actually perfect, though. They
You
set her
thought?
up for the win.
you thought so?
Talking is not her strong suit. Okay.
Oh my god! So they need
They
to put
were
her in
like,
silence, lean into her.
We're going to put you in
strengths
silence, showing off your flexibility
in your body.
and your body
Oh god!
and how good that sewing is. Like, that's what we're going to set you up for. I think it was a great setup for her. Just to
Oh
build
god!
that. Yeah, if I were her, I would have like built up the sexual tension
Yeah.
and then done the same at night and probably never given the release. I might have let him jack off on my
Oh.
stomach as like the most, but you're never going to
Mm.
experience the body.
That
So
would have been the strategy. Yeah.
yeah, but if
Ooh.
again, if you're not looking for your husband, you're just looking, which I kind of looked at it like that for her. She's like, let me just see how far I can get.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think there might be that element of things for contestants too. Like even if
Yeah.
you're not interested in the person, you're like, let me just see
How far can I
how far.
get?
Wouldn't you love to be on The Bachelor? I would love to do it.
Hell no.
I just want to see how far I get. I
Just
just
to
want to
see.
see. I'm just curious, how far would I get?
How would I make it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Played as a game more than anything.
Yeah, I would play it as a game. I would love it if it were a game. I would totally play.
Yeah, and that's true. With the Bachelor, it's also a gateway to Bachelor in Paradise, which is really where you can really find love. The most successful or the highest number of couples have come out of Paradise, the spinoff, not
Oh.
even Bachelor or Bachelorette. So if they're smart, they do come in with a little bit of a secret agenda that if I don't make it here, let me at least get enough camera time that I can make it onto Paradise. So
I don't think, I mean, I've worked on a number of dating reality shows and I've really lost hope
oh
that
god,
any of them are real people.
are real.
I just think everybody wants to be, yeah, a social media influencer and
Yeah,
like
that's a
in
huge
almost,
part of it.
even in a circumstance where I thought for sure
Mhm.
that it wasn't like that, I had
Mhm.
later bumped into somebody who was on the show who like revealed to me that her and that person were like not even together at all. So
Wow.
the lengths that people will go, and I
Mm.
don't get me wrong, I understand it. And I just think from enough time from interviewing different people who've been on reality
Contestants,
shows, from
yeah.
Love Is Blind and to etc. I just don't think any of them really want to find love. I think they want to
Yeah.
find love, but what is priority for them at this point in their life
Right.
is their career and their stepping stone. Which I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
in some ways, like the Love Is Blind people, not Love Is Blind. What's the other show? American Love Island.
Love Island. Mhm.
But they figured it out.
Oh
Because
yeah,
how many of those couples stayed together?
still together, and they're
So
super
they were like,
young too.
if we do both,
yeah,
if we actually look for love
yeah,
and we stay together, we will get a bigger social media following.
yes, them little kids on Love Island this last season were very smart.
Very
because
smart.
you are stronger together. People want the couples content, so we need to figure this out.
You want that Chick-fil-A ad?
Yes.
Yeah. You guys, and you're actually both aligned. Your priorities are the same.
Yeah.
You care, your values are the same.
Financial
your
goals.
long-term goals are the same. You're attracted to each other. I mean, you're attracted, period. It's a hit.
Yeah, that is true. So Zoe, I don't know what Zoe, maybe she has some little secret agenda, but she's here peddling through. So yeah, she, as you said, flat out asks him, I don't know much about you. He recaps kind of his same story that we already know about his family. His dad struggled with addiction, his mom taking care of the family. I guess this is the first time they're realizing that their childhoods are like pretty aligned. And also their timeline for a family, which is the first time we're hearing Grant bring this up as like a huge thing for him. The timeline piece with Zoe in particular matches. So that's, I guess, giving her a little a checkbox, but whatever. We know she's going home.
Not enough.
Not enough. They head into fantasy suites. Knowing the little that we know about Zoe, I am suspecting or predicting that they had sex because at this point she needs a Hail Mary. That's what I'm thinking.
I don't think she did.
You don't think she did?
I don't think she did. I think Juliana did. I think Latia
did a little something. Heavy petting.
He nutted somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying it was inside of her or in the condom, but that's my prediction.
And Zoe,
I think that they probably, I think they probably made out and teased because also too, I don't know if you noticed, but the end of their, they didn't have a goodbye.
They really didn't.
It was almost as if the goodbye was too lackluster to show on film.
Yeah.
Because we saw them on the beach, kind of just having like this like generally polite conversation. And then all of a sudden we were into Latia's one-on-one with the other woman. And I was like, are we going to flash back to the goodbye? We didn't need to see it because they just walked away.
Yeah, truly.
Thank you. Are you going to finish that? Okay. I'll take this one. No, you can have it. That's okay. Actually, no, we'll both leave it. All right. Are we done here? Yeah. Okay. What should we do next? That's how it ended. They were like, we can't air that.
Yeah.
So I don't think she did. That's my prediction.
Yeah. He didn't say anything about Zoe. We didn't get I'm falling in love. I love you. I'm almost about to fall in love. Like we didn't get any verbal affirmations at all. So I think it would be in her best interest to have not been intimate with somebody who really can't even articulate how he feels about you. I don't know, because I think Zoe really does like Grant, so I was predicting that she may have done a little Hail Mary and did something last night, but we'll never know.
Let me tell you something else, okay? This is very unhinged me, and I was almost sad when you guys sent me the screener because I'm like, oh, you might have a relationship with the show, because I just wanted to really talk shit. So I was like, can we do this?
We can talk shit.
Okay.
We are unfiltered over here. That relationship don't go that deep.
Because what I thought was so fascinating is I've only, again, watched very sparse seasons and I've enjoyed what I've watched. But during the Matt James season, this man would be topless at a 5-star restaurant. This guy never had a shirt on.
Never had a shirt on.
And I thought it was interesting that Grant always had a shirt on.
He does. He really does. And so I was like,
he doesn't have body yaddy yaddy.
I don't think so.
But we saw from this, we saw in the Dominican Republic, because they didn't get his shirt off, but they did convince him to open up the buttons.
Okay. So a little taco meat at the top.
It blowed in the breeze. And I was like, yeah, as predicted.
God, that's true. He's maintained that shirt on all season long.
Yeah, which is to play basketball in a shirt. He played soccer in the shirt. Like he damn near went swimming in the shirt. He woke up after sex
with the shirt on. I didn't even notice.
He had the shirt right back on in the morning.
Oh, Grant, that makes me feel like he's insecure or something. Why is he doing that?
Or the show was like,
put that shirt
flying
on.
in Grant's shirt. Can somebody bring Grant a shirt?
Damn. Last but not least, we have Latia going in. Obviously, she's fretting a little bit over the idea that he's maybe been intimate with others. So they fly in Katie from Zach's season. So we didn't watch Zach's season, so I had no idea who this lady was, but she won. So I didn't even realize that. But she says on Zach's season, he told the ladies that sex was off the table. Then when it came time to Katie's overnight, he's like, wait a second now. I actually did have sex with somebody. Sorry. Do you think the lead should be making any promises like this? Like, what is the advantage ever of saying, I'm not going to do this, or I will only do that?
Yeah, I don't think you should make a promise for it. I think everybody should approach the season how they usually verbalize that they do. Like, I'm just going with where I feel the strongest connection.
Yes.
I'm just going with my experience. I'm just following my heart. I'm following my gut. And that's what you're set up to do. So yeah, I definitely wouldn't make any strong declaration in general, period. I do my absolute best not to make hard predictions for the future. Maybe as a chronically late person, I just have more experience at this. Of just being like, I was late for today's taping, so.
It's all good.
I think that just, not saying like I will or I won't or this
Yeah.
will be or I'm setting this standard,
Yeah.
but instead like I'm gathering as much information as I can and I'm trying to make the best decision. The decision that I can see myself leaning towards based on my values are as follows. However, this is a new circumstance for me and I don't know
Right.
what's going to come up.
It can
You can just
change.
add a couple of extra sentences that give you that, because I just think whenever you give somebody that rom-com conflict nugget of like, you promised me.
Yeah.
Promised me you wouldn't. You said it. I believed you. I took your word. And then now you're like, okay, but come on.
Damn. Yeah.
Do you understand? I was hired by this reporting company, and then there's a Russian spy involved. So I had to make this decision. I know I said one thing, but please
Right. I had to
understand.
change it up. Yeah.
Let's use some logic here.
Oh
But yeah, I
God.
think you set yourself up and the other person up for a hard time when you do that. But
Yes.
in
Yeah.
general, in consensual non-monogamy, don't ask, don't tell is a real thing. So
Yeah.
I mean,
I
these people
agree.
are all engaged in ethically non-monogamous relationships, right? I think it's actually really fascinating to me because I have been watching this with my 4-year-old daughter. I say watching this like in air quotes because she'll just like kind of come in and out.
Yeah.
But first of all, she calls it the Bachelor. It says
Oh.
Chatela.
Yeah.
We're watching The Bachelor. Let's watch The Bachelor.
Bachelor.
But when people ever talking about like how would you explain to a kid about ethical non-monogamy, it's so incredibly simple because we're watching it and she's like, that's his girlfriend. And I'm like, yeah. And then the next scene, another girl's there. Is like, that's his girlfriend. I'm like, yeah.
She
She's
got
like, he's
it.
got
She got
multiple
it.
girlfriends. Yes.
Yeah.
That's the concept of the show. So
Yeah.
it's an ethical and non-monogamous show. And so I think people in talking about how to prepare for these probably should read books like Polysecure. Probably should read book about the ethical slut. It's another really great one.
Oh yes.
But
I
just
know this one.
understanding how to manage the emotions, come up with frameworks and access tools that allow you to thrive in this kind of relational dynamic. And don't ask, don't tell is a tool that many people utilize. They would just prefer not to. I want to know everything, but I'm just naturally curious about the topic of intimacy. And as you are too. Like we want reality shows. So why would I not want my own reality show spelled out for me too? Like if there's interesting things happening, like I asked my husband, he goes out to the party. You want to tell me all the boring stuff about like who spent what on what bottle, who paid for the Uber, who paid for the table, who made out with who. Okay?
Right. Give me the tea. I don't need to know about all of this.
What song was it?
Yes.
How long did it last? This is the information that I'm interested in.
Yes.
So but I know I can handle that information.
Yeah,
I'm intrigued by it. If you know you can't, then I love what Latia did. Don't ask, don't tell.
Don't ask, don't tell. Yeah, which was great. Great advice coming from Katie, who's like, I knew, he told me, and then it derailed my whole mindset going into our fantasy suites. And she ended up winning. Yeah, I didn't realize that to the end.
Obviously, it worked out fine.
It worked out just fine, but not without bumps.
You can't tell, though. That's the thing with the journey. You can't tell what sells somebody, right? Some people like the bumps. Like that could have been the selling feature. And some people are very turned on by jealousy. They're very turned on. I mean, that's what they learned about love, was modeled for them growing up. And when they see that exhibited in a partner, that feels very comforting to them. That feels like genuine, true love. So her going off and like being super mad and making it a big deal, that may have guilted her into getting the rose. So you don't ever know.
That's true. You don't know. So Latia, they go zip lining. They sit by this beautiful cenote. They give all the budget for this date because they want this lady to win. I mean, this is she had like a 2-part beautiful ass date and Zoe did a yoga session. Like the hell. So they recap hometowns. We learned that although she lives in Utah now, she is open to moving. His dad is in Jersey in rehab and he's thinking of moving there. And she seemed very down, which was very interesting because Utah is far and it seems like she's very close to her family and her community. So it's like, oh, interesting. They head to dinner. She is super nervous about telling him she doesn't want to be intimate, but she eventually comes out with it. He really respects her for it. And that's when he tells her that he loves her, actually. Do you think that influenced his I love you, him saying to her, I don't want to have sex? Do you think that sparked something in him? Like he saw her I don't know, he just grew immense respect for her, or like, what was that? It was like immediately afterwards, he was like, oh my God, I respect you so much. I love you.
Yeah. I didn't actually catch that. So I'd have to reflect on that. Of course, I mean, at the end of the day, when we're in a relationship with somebody, it's not just the two of us, it's us and the thousands of people that we've met before and the millions of influences that have impacted us.
Yeah.
So if he consumed a lot of content or, got a lot of messaging early on around the right woman being a pure woman or, being a discerning woman or a sexually, not unliberated, but a prude, for lack of a better term. Sorry. Yeah, there's probably a better term I'm saying lack of a better term. There's probably a much better term, but if he got messaging around a wife and a wife being the kind of person who would turn down sex or wouldn't be interested in sex before marriage or sex before I love you, then of course those things would definitely impact you. Again, like some people are lit up by somebody flirting with a waitress. Some people are lit up by somebody, neglecting them because that's what's familiar to them from their past. So you can never say what makes somebody fall in love, but that would be a red flag to me if I said that to somebody and then their immediate response was, I love you. I think that would be a turnoff for me as the person who had made the decision in my power, not to please you or not to set your standards, but in celebration of my own. And the fact that you like delighted in that, I think would strike me as strange. Especially given the connection that we have and like the history. I saw this quote recently actually where it said that like, if after you have sex with a woman or after you touch a woman, you look at her as dirty, the next place that you should look is your own hands. So, right. If the idea of somebody being intimate with you and acting on the sexual chemistry, the romantic chemistry that you have built up to this point, if the idea of them feeling the need to enjoy that is a turnoff for you, that's a lot of psychological work that I'm not sure I would want to sign up for. But I'm not a Mormon, so that might be right on time.
That might be. Latia,
that's what I'm saying. I just want to see how far I'd get. It might not be. It might
You're like the anti-Latia. This is hilarious. So,
which is, I think, what's so inspiring about this? It just genuinely shows you, bet on yourself. Be true to yourself. Bet on yourself. You really don't know what's going to sway or what's going to win. I think there's certain base techniques that could definitely influence you. And then again, you want to put yourself in a position to be the best version of yourself. But you don't have to try to be the best version of somebody else. Because my technique probably would not have gotten me to Dominican Republic.
With who this final crew is, I don't think.
I wouldn't have made the cut.
Energy's a little different. Latia, we also learned her family planning timeline. She's 31. She says ideally in the next 2 years, she wants to start making some babies. Grant admits in his interview that the timeline is a little bit faster than what he would want for himself, but he said he's, quote, willing to compromise for someone he loves. I don't know if compromising on a baby making timeline, is that smart? That sounds like a recipe for quick issues.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I mean, there's a big difference between there is places that you can compromise, and then there's places that you're compatible, and then there's spaces that you're incompatible. And so compromise to me means it's not ideal, but there is a middle ground that feels like a safe and happy space for me. So I don't mind that. I mean, it's in general, I think we can look at compatibility as something very rare and special versus something that should be a given. And if you have compatibility in a couple of areas, it's almost natural you're going to have incompatibility in others. Right. So you can be financially compatible, you can be sexually compatible, you can be compatible in your value system and your lifestyle. However, your long-term goals, like there is incompatibility, and that's just feel like, that makes sense. There's going to be some areas in which we don't completely align, but if lining up with you requires this sacrifice of me that doesn't feel like I'm resulting in losing a big piece of myself.
Mm.
I am only speaking of this too because I probably was in the same situation. My husband is 6 years younger than me. So I had my first kid at 35. So he was 29. And yeah, I'm sure in a different relationship or with somebody the same age as him, he probably would have waited an extra couple of years. And I remember we had that conversation after we had our second kid. We had it multiple times, but I really asked him, I'm like, like, do you regret? It's a lot. It's really a lot.
Yeah.
I'm sitting in my kid's playroom right now because if anyone's confused about why is she in a blazer and there's a trampoline beside her?
Yeah, beside you.
What is the setup? She's wearing yoga pants and it's a lot. It's a big sacrifice. Right. And I think you have to both know that together and then be open for the challenges of it. And then also acknowledge that you're going to have to make the sacrifice at some point.
Yeah.
And there might be a more ideal time, but if it's slightly more ideal versus drastically more ideal, I think it's a compromise you can make.
Yeah. Yeah. We never learn Grant's, his specific timeline. We know Latia's is 2 years. He says it's quicker than his, but he's willing to compromise. I don't know if his timeline is 4 years, 3 years, 5 years, like what that compromise looks like.
I think in your comment section that someone said that he's like an artist.
Yeah, he's a singer. He's a musical artist. He's promoted a little bit on the show with the singing. In the early like group dates, he would be singing and stuff. So I think he dropped a single too on like episode like 2. I haven't listened to the single. I don't know, but he can carry a tune.
How could you not listen to the single?
I'm just not interested. I'm sorry. Just not interested. Oh God. But yeah, he has some plans. So 2 years to start a family. When he said that was more quicker than his timeline, I heard that. But we don't know what his timeline is. So I don't know how
enough time to become the next Chris Brown.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how long that's going to take.
What he thinks
it depends on right. If the single sounds like Run It or if it sounds like Don't Run With This. You and I don't know because we haven't listened to it. But
we did not.
I think you definitely have to come into I'm really grateful for the time that I got to have kids. And it's a gift that I hope that most people can have. But it is not often the case because people can have kids by accident too. So
that is true.
I don't see that as a deal breaker, especially for how much he loves her.
He loves Latia, yeah. He does share that this is only the second time he said "I love you" to someone, so this is kind of a big deal. What we're seeing with Grant and Latia, not for nothing. Obviously, after he dropped the "I love you," he's worried about how he's now going to maneuver this. This keeps happening where the leads drop "I love yous" before the end, which always creates stress and drama for them, for everybody else, because you dropped it to Latia. In my head, that's your girl. The show is over now, but you still got Juliana here and you still seem to want to get to know her, but you just said "I love you" to somebody else. Like, what are we doing here? How do we navigate this? What is this, Grant?
You can be in love with multiple people at the same time.
So
that's what I heard. That's what the preview said.
That's what they say.
I didn't think it was possible to be in love with so many people at once. It's a difficult. I think I would have watched a lot of seasons in advance and made a conscious decision not to say "I love you" to somebody before.
Definitely.
We've all been there. I was in love with my husband maybe like 3 months before I said it. You could keep that shit in.
That's what I think too.
Yeah,
they be rushing to say it like they can't wait, like it's on the tip of their tongue. And same, I started dating my husband in January. I told him "I love you" in April. And I first made mention of falling in love with him in my diary in January, but I kept it in until April. So y'all can keep this in.
Keep it in. Yeah. Tell your diary.
Write it in a journal. Jesus.
Yeah.
So anyways.
You know what you can say?
Yes.
You could say, I'm about to say something so crazy right now, but I'm not going to. We know what that means.
We know what that means. But leave it there.
Yeah.
Leave it there. Yes.
Oof, I'm feeling the urge to say something so wild to you. I'm just not going to say it though.
Yeah.
What is it? No.
I can't.
No, I'm like, you're amazing. Yeah. You're great.
I love this training manual that you're putting together for these future contestants, y'all. So, okay, Latia and Juliana obviously got the roses. Zoe went home. I feel for Zoe. I feel like this was a waste of her time. There's no way she was going to make it past Fantasy Suites with how he was going in with Latia and Juliana and his feelings for there. We do end the episode with Grant's family coming in. So his mom, his dad, his sister. He said his parents hadn't seen each other in 7 or 8 years, which is wild. So this process is kind of bringing everybody together. But yeah, they end with kind of Grant starting to freak out. He doesn't know what to do. This is the biggest week of his life, and he is allegedly very torn. Although he said "I love you" to Latia, he's still feeling not very sure on Latia because Juliana's still here. So that was the episode. We'll have to see what happens.
I will. I'll watch it. I'm excited. I'm excited to see him choose Latia.
So you really think it's Latia?
I really do. I mean, she's been getting the first rose like the last 5 episodes really straight. Has. Yeah. And she even says it, like he calls her for it. They both are like,
yeah. And she's why do you think he's so torn though? Because he really editing. You think it's the editing that's making it seem like this?
Don't you feel like every next week has been like, oh, and then the episode has been just as dull as the last. So
the Bachelor editors, they deserve all the awards. They really pull it out.
When it was like, I'm asking you as your mother, and they made it seem as if she said it, I'm pretty sure it was something like, stop eating carbs. Like something, don't forget to take your meds.
All right.
Get 8 hours of sleep. Like, I think they've been doing their absolute darndest.
Yeah.
To try to make this interesting and to try to keep the guesswork in it. But I think it's going to be Latia.
You think it's Latia? Yeah.
I think he just didn't know. I mean, let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
Does the person who get the engagement always come first? Could he have been torn of like, do I reject first or propose first versus who do I choose?
Whoever is first out of the car during the final episode is the person who's going home.
Oh, okay. Always.
They leave the final. The winner comes out last. They do the breaking up first, and then they do the final engagement. So that's why the host is like, who do I send first? Which is basically asking, who are you denying? Because that's the first person that comes out.
Okay. Well, that changes things for me.
Oh, really?
Well, because I didn't know that piece of information. I thought you get to pick.
Oh,
like, do I want to, good news or bad news first? What do you want first? The good news or the bad news?
Yeah, it's always the bad news first.
Yeah. Because, then that's such a case. I can see the mom saying, please don't marry this Mormon lady.
Mm-hmm. That's why I'm pausing with Latia, because I feel like the sister, Grant doesn't know nothing about the Mormon church. We can see. I feel like the sister has watched the same documentaries we all have, and she has questions. So I think that's maybe what's going to cause him a little pause is when the sister drops a little bit of tea on this church that, bruh, we need to think about this. I know you're in love with her and all, but, So that's what I'm thinking. Why he's still so torn with Latia? Because in any other case, it's Latia.
It's Latia. Yeah,
it's Latia.
Couldn't tell you why, but I know that he feels it. Mm-hmm. I do know that for damn sure.
Yes, you see it. But the fact that she's a Mormon, that's going to cause pause. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, okay. Now I am tuned in a different set of anticipation. So you have turned me around from being cockily sure to intrigued.
Yes. Well, we'll have to wait and see. Shan, thank you so much for joining me. This was so fun.
Thank you for having me. I don't have any friends to talk about The Bachelor with, so when you guys asked me, I was like, it's my time. So
you did seem mad hype in that DM. I was like, oh, she's excited.
Well, because you know what it is too. I don't know anybody else who's watching it.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm sure you do.
People. Right. I mean, we're in this space, but I mean, yeah, I don't have a lot of friends. Outside of Justine, I don't really have many people in my life who watch The Bachelor. Still. Used to watch it, but not still.
Like Love is Blind, everyone is watching that one. I didn't watch Love Island. So maybe I have to get on to the popular ones. But I'm still stuck on Old Faithful.
Old Faithful. Wow.
It's the billboard that got me this time. It might be my last, but it was a blast.
Oh, it was a good one. Grant's billboard. Can you tell everybody where they can find you, more about Lovers by Shan, your masterclass, plug all the things?
You just did it.
Oh, there we go.
You're such a pro. Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is such a joy. Congrats on all your guys' success.
Thank you.
Keep it going. I find you guys to be such a delight, and such a necessary breath of fresh air in this season 75 old stagnant space. So
Yes.
don't stop.
Thank you so much. All right, guys. See you next week.